Welcome back, friends, to a celebration of the year that has passed, featuring some of my most watched videos from 2024. But let's begin with a much more recent performance from yesterday afternoon, in fact. And I'll ask you, what does it sound like if three musicians get together in a slightly chilly village church to record one of the greatest New Year's melodies ever known? Sniffing cold churches and broken organs is probably my catchphrase for 2024. This was supposed to be a nice performance of Auld Lang Syne, followed by a celebration of the year's videos. But not only did the performance not quite go to plan, as you'll see, but nor did the videos. I'm looking at my most watched videos from the last year. And we have, with 31,000 views, The Organ Defeated Me. 70,000 views, An Organist's Worst Nightmare. 82,000 views, How to Leave an Organist Speechless. And in first place, with 92,000 views, Unplayable Organ, Challenge Accepted. So do you enjoy seeing me play organs or not? I identified 3 problems which link these various videos together. Those are broken organs, wrong notes, and cold and damp conditions. So this, my friends, is a tribute to a year of musical nightmares. The clip you saw at the very beginning of this video was part of a recording session I made yesterday with my brother Billy and his girlfriend Becca. And we thought this was going to be dead easy. Just go into Long Critchell Church, one of my favourites, and record this 2-minute Auld Lang Syne for the very beginning of this video. And it really encapsulated everything that goes wrong on my channel. And the first problem was the cold. Not only does cold weather cause performers to sniff rather loudly, but it also makes instruments go out of tune very quickly in a matter of minutes. And that's what we found at Long Critchell. The harmonium, just fine. It stood for 100 years in almost perfect tuning. But a trombone, and even worse, a guitar or a bouzouki, are much bigger problems. Guitars will go out of tune in minutes, and so will trombones. It kind of depends whether they've been warmed up or not by somebody playing them for a while, and they have to be retuned using a slide as well. It's a bit like an organ. It's this same problem which I've encountered all throughout the winter with instruments going out of tune, but also my own personal battles with freezing temperatures. In fact, my highest viewed organ road trip ever, with about 220,000 views, begins with this introduction. Viewers, I make no apology at the fact that it's just too cold for an in-depth discussion of this organ. So instead, you know what? I'm going to let it speak for itself. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, pull the covers over your face,
and relish in seeing a man suffer for his art.
This was of course my Advent video last year from St Andrew's Church, Great Durnford. I read some of the history of the church, and then afterwards I began to get colder and colder.
Excuse me, viewers, I've had to go outside to get some more clothes. I was too vain to dress up warmer, but I'm absolutely freezing. Anyway, the organ loft of St Andrew's Church, Great Durnford.
I was putting on a brave face there, but the reality behind the scenes was much worse. Oh,
it's cold. It's so cold. Come on, man, you gotta do it.
So there you are. That vividly illustrates one of the biggest problems I face when I'm filming on YouTube. And with that, let's now turn to the second of this organist's filming nightmares, and that is the wrong notes category. Wrong notes are unavoidable. It's always nerve-wracking performing to a lens on the church organ, especially when organs have various issues which make them difficult to play. Normally, I do just delete anything with a wrong note. I'll just play the piece again. However, on occasion, I've had to somehow deal with the problem in the video. And this brings us to Donhead St Andrew, a recent film which has 31,000 views and is called The Organ Defeated Me. This was my first film with Sophia, and I was slightly cocky because my plan was to demonstrate how you can play Widor's Toccata on a village church organ. I filmed the entire video in order. Everything went just fine until the performance.
Widor's Toccata.
All I could do was just show you with complete honesty that I couldn't play the piece. It was partly due to the mechanical action on the organ, but also due to the fact it's a very difficult piece to play in a village church. And I think you admired my honesty perhaps in that video, which is why I've tried to be more open about the challenges since then. I have played wrong notes in other videos. In Wells Cathedral, we didn't have much time to do retakes. We didn't have very long. We got there at 8:30 in the morning, and we had just over an hour to record the bulk of the film. And there was one part I remember in O Come Emmanuel where I played a humongous wrong note in the pedals. I wonder if you noticed. And I covered it up by going into an improvisation. That's such an embarrassing admission. Maybe I shouldn't have told you, but there we go. That's why I improvised at the end of O Come, Emmanuel. Let's now turn to the final and most significant problem and nightmare that I faced in 2024, which has resulted in some of my most popular videos, and that is the broken organ. At the very beginning of this year, I received an email from a chap who was born in Salisbury, but who no longer lives in England. And I've never found out where he lives now. But he wrote to me asking if I could please go to a church in Fuggleston, near Salisbury. He said, "There's a modest pipe organ in St. Peter's Church in Fuggleston, between Wilton and Salisbury. The church is still lit by gas and the organ is hand pumped." And then he goes on to say, "It's unlikely I shall ever see England again now. I am infirmed and do not travel well." But his grandmother was born in the parish, and his great-grandmother played the organ at Fuggleston Church from the late 1880s to the early 1900s. So I made my way to the church. This is St. Peter's Church, Fugglestone. No electricity, no water. A church almost completely untouched since the mid-19th century. The building itself, 13th century. Its claim to fame, the rector here was Reverend George Herbert. Up the stairs to the gallery. Ooh. Full of seating. How magnificent. Interesting that there's a light here, because if that's powered by electricity, then where's the electricity come from? There's nothing going on there. Right, the first thing I'm going to do is pull out some stops, pump it, and if you hear any whistling, that means there's a cipher and it's game over. A cipher is a sticking note or air getting into a pipe where it shouldn't, which completely ruins the entire use of the organ. So, here we go. I must admit, I'm slightly nervous. Okay, so it's bad news. Multiple ciphers. That's so sad. That video was called Every Organist's Worst Nightmare, and it was very popular last January. In fact, it was so popular that the vicar of Wilton sent me an email saying, "Shall we go and have a look at that organ? See if we can fix it." So I went with him to the church on another cold day, and we fixed the organ. All we did was take off the side panel and loosen the action, which had become really stuck, probably from the instrument not being played for a long time. And with that, I needed to go back to Fuggleston Church with an assistant who could pump it. And this was Billy's first time on screen. Unfortunately, not all church organs are as easy to fix as that one. And that brings us to one of my greatest challenges of the year, which turned out to be my second most popular video with 82,000 views, and it was also my 100th YouTube video, how to leave an organist speechless. And as we move towards the chancel, things become really interesting. Not just in the history here, but in what you can tell just by sensing what's around you, just by observing. The smell of the place, the atmosphere, is completely unique. And look at this chancel. So distinctive. This is the pipe organ of St. Nicholas Church. It's solemn, it's grand, it's quite compact, but it's perfectly built and designed for this space. It looks so usable, doesn't it? Everything's here. It's not like it's a shell. All of the pipes are up there. How much this instrument would love to sing again. But there we are. My 100th YouTube video and the first organ with no life in it at all. I was left with an immediate problem of how do I actually finish the video? If the organ doesn't work at all, then what can I do? And in this case, I turned to metaphor and representation and poetry. I chose a poem from 1770 by Oliver Goldsmith. It's really about the Enclosures Act, where common land which had been farmed by communities for centuries was transferred to wealthy landowners. But I was using the poem in a more metaphorical sense, as you'll see. Sunk are thy bowers in shapeless ruin all, and the long grass overtops the mouldering wall, and trembling, shrinking from the spoiler's hand, far, far away, thy children leave the land. Ill fares the land, to hastening ills a prey, where wealth accumulates and men decay. Princes and lords may flourish, all may fade, a breath can make them, as a breath has made, but a bold peasantry, their country's pride, when once destroyed, can never be supplied. A deserted village and a ghostly recollection of the St. Nicholas's Church organ. There was a very strange irony at Leckford Church, which is that I'd spent a whole day filming there and I did not see a single person. Not one person came into the church in the entire day's filming. And yet, while I was exploring that building, there were 82,000 of you there with me. A strange thought. It's worth me mentioning at this stage because it's really important that I am completely independent. and I'm not funded by anybody. None of the videos you've seen have been funded by anyone except myself. You've noticed that I don't sport clothes with brands on them, and I don't promote my camera equipment. I have no interest in that whatsoever. I'm completely isolated in that sense. And it's worth saying that if you're enjoying watching my videos and my tours and hearing me play these various organs, you can support me personally by donating using PayPal. If you look underneath the video, you'll see the link to my PayPal page, and from there you can make a small donation if you're enjoying my work. If you'd like to help support me, I would be incredibly grateful. It really, really helps keep me on the road, and I'd receive your donation with immense gratitude. Thank you. Let's now turn to my final video of the day. With 92,000 views, this is Long Critchel.
In the last decade, about 2,000 churches were declared redundant. This one was actually disused from 2001, declared redundant 2 years later, and then in 2011 it was placed under the care of the Friends of Friendless Churches.
After exploring the inside of the church, I found an instrument which left me with very few options.
I don't feel any resistance to what I'm doing. That means there's probably holes in the bellows. In other words, this instrument is not storing any air, air is merely passing through it. The best I can do, really, is to remove the chair and give it as much welly as I can with my right trainer and just play a kind of Vivaldi-esque accompaniment.
The panting and wheezing you're hearing is not me, it really is the organ. When these instruments start to fall to pieces, they really do sound like human voices breaking. That's what makes them so emotional. I knew I'd need to do something different here. So I sketched out a piece of music using those 4 chords and a melody. Billy went to get his guitar, and while he practiced, I went outside to take photos as I normally do, and something extraordinary happened. What had started as sunshine and a light breeze turned ever windier, stormier, the clouds darker, and eventually the rain came pouring down. It seemed the perfect match to my piece, an ode to a friendless church.
So, broken organs, freezing churches, and a smattering of wrong notes. So what's the moral of 2024? Well, I guess it's that you can find meaning in even the harshest of circumstances. Or as Rudyard Kipling put it, that we should treat triumph and disaster just the same. But of course there's one staple of the year which I haven't mentioned. And that, my friends, is the humble village footpath. And where will those footpaths take us in 2025? Who knows? But I hope that you will be there to join me. Cheerio.